This video was broken into two parts. You're watching 2 of 2.
You're watching Every Day's a Saturday, USCC veteran. Let's go, baby. And here's your host, Bryan.
Out, and you kind of touched base on this. You had a friend that got out 6 months after you, and that's awesome, right? For me, when I got out, all of my buddies were deployed again. Like I got out a few months after I helped them with their medical readiness for them to deploy. And so I got out, there was one person that got out with me, but for the most part, everybody that I kind of knew was gone, and so I didn't have as much of that connection. But I have touched base with a lot of my battle buddies that I was in the military with over the years, and some of the stories, there's so many people that get lost, right? Like I have had multiple friends who have, yeah, oh, there you go, types of PTSD. But I've had multiple friends who have joined the 22. I've had friends who have lost jobs, friends who've been divorced, have um, friends who have been in jail multiple times, friends who've gotten in trouble with drugs and alcohol. Um, there's so many different people who are responding to that trauma and having a hard time when they get back because they, like you said, they feel so isolated. Did you want to share about the slide?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and so I just want everybody to know that, a lot of people, when they hear PTSD, they think of military members. And, PTSD is not just, related to veterans or military members. It is anybody that has any type of major event happen in their life that really leaves an impact. So we're going to go through the different types of PTSD so you guys can kind of be aware of the different types. There's normal stress response. While PTSD symptoms can occur following traumatic events, not all individuals develop a disorder. Most individuals commonly experience a normal stress response to life stressors such as illness, accidents, or surgeries. These symptoms generally subside without causing significant distress and coping skills and support. So, like, some of the symptoms of normal stress response include fearfulness, sadness, relief, anger, frequently thinking about the traumatic event, jumpiness or sweating, difficulty concentrating, falling out of a regular self-care routine, insomnia, feeling detached from others. Then we have acute stress disorder, which acute stress disorder is type of PTSD that occurs immediately following a traumatic event and is characterized by specific symptoms. Individuals with ASD may experience heightened anxiety, persistent feelings of worry or fear, and intrusive thoughts related to the trauma. They may also exhibit an exaggerated startled response, constantly feeling on edge or easily startled by noise of sudden movements. So symptoms of acute disorder may include heightened anxiety, exaggerated startle response, that's me, intrusive memory related to the traumatic event, persistent feeling of worry or fear, disassociative symptoms such as feeling disconnected from reality or having an altered sense of time, avoidance behaviors where individuals actively try to avoid anything that may remind of the traumatic event.
I just wanted to say,
I think I might have acute stress disorder.
So I wanted to say, it says up there dissociative. So if you go back up, so dissociative and disassociation. Those are two different things. There's dissociation.
Oh yeah, I read that.
Disassociation. So dissociation is where your brain goes bye-bye. You stay in the situation and your brain goes bye-bye. Avoidance behaviors, which is disassociation. That is, I am choosing to leave the situation. So I just want to put it out there that those are two separate things.
Perfect. And then we have uncomplicated PTSD, which is typically developed from a single traumatic event, like PTSD after a car accident. People might experience intrusive thoughts even when trying to avoid thinking about the event. They may exhibit increased irritability or anxiety in specific spaces that trigger trauma memories. Some may appear moody which can strain relationships and impact the ability to navigate daily activities. Some of the symptoms of uncomplicated PTSD may include intrusive thoughts, avoidance behaviors, disruptive mood changes, changes in cognitive processing, slowed reaction time, and lashing out at others when stressed. Then we have dissociative.
No, dissociative.
Yes, gosh, I can't get that stupid word there. You say
I
this one
know.
here. You read this
Yeah.
one now.
Dissociative type PTSD. So this is the type that I have mixed with the complex PTSD. So dissociative type PTSD is not a principal diagnosis, but is still vital in considering treatment options. The type of PTSD includes typical symptoms alongside continuous or repeated PTSD-induced dissociative episodes. These experiences occur outside the influence of substances or physical health issues. Dissociative PTSD is common for those who have experienced significant abuse from family or childhood trauma. If untreated, dissociation can lead to a lifetime of lapses in attention and memory, potentially damaging overall success in relationships and everyday functioning. So I struggle with this.
Right.
Depersonalization refers to feeling detached from the body or mind, and derealization, to those experiencing it, the environment or world feels unreal, disconnected, or dreamlike. So for me, what happens is when I get triggered, I literally feel like I am outside of my body and watching my reactions. Like my husband explained it last year. I was really stuck in my PTSD and had to do an intensive outpatient program. And my husband explained it to me that I reverted into acting like a teenager. Like with my emotions, with my arguments, with everything. It was like, but I was on the other side and I was watching, my logical was watching this emotional response. And it was like, I was not connected. So it's not multiple personality disorder, right? It's not that. It is, I am literally watching this happen, but I am not in control because my emotions have taken control so much. And so then there's also times where it's not even that. It's I don't even remember what's going on. And so I'll forget complete conversations. So this will happen, but I'll forget complete conversations. And that's the thing, is this is part of a behavioral response to the PTSD. So that's what dissociation is. And so it's like I also have borderline personality disorder. And so the dissociation is a way that my BPD manifests.
Wow. Yeah. It's really nice actually going through these and kind of hearing the different and maybe someone out there is hearing this for the first time and realizing, oh my gosh, I have this PTSD. That's me. You may have PTSD and not even realize it, right?
Yep.
From just childhood trauma, things that you bad relationships, things like that you never process through, and you think, oh, you're good, but you never process through it.
Well, and then we're going into the complex PTSD.
Yeah, go ahead.
Next,
You can read this one. Yep.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, so those first two types of responses, right? You've got something that happens and I have acute distress. Okay, I'm kind of struggling, but it's not it's not something that continues on, And then you've got the what was the other ones?
Let me go up to it.
Sorry.
Nope, you're good.
Okay, so you've got the normal response, you've got the acute stress disorder. So those are kind of like lower grade responses. Then you've got uncomplicated PTSD. And so what that means is there's one single event that happens that you respond negatively to, that you have this PTSD response. And then we go into the dissociative, which is a response to the PTSD. And then you go into complex PTSD, which this is multiple traumatic events. So me and you, we have that complex PTSD. We've got that childhood trauma that happened. We've got relational trauma that's happened, and we have the military trauma. And so that is that's the difference. Uncomplicated is one event. Complex is multiple events.
There's a lot
And
more
so
symptoms for this one too. So
yes, yes. And so it develops after the multiple or repeated traumatic events. Individuals may experience PTSD symptoms with more intensity and impairment, sometimes as antisocial and aggressive behavioral changes. I went antisocial. It's like I had to have my alcohol in order to associate with anybody. Or I started isolating and stuff. Other people go into the aggressive. I'm going to fight. Sometimes those who face abuse cannot remove themselves from the situation. The abuser may still reach out to them despite expressed wishes to cease contact. In turn, many struggles to process the impact of their traumas, leading to low self-esteem, impulsivity, and destructive thought process.
Mm,
So it's not just, and I'll say change that on there, right? They can't remove themselves from the situation because they might be in Iraq and there is a continued trauma that is going on. So it's not just because of an abuser, but also, whatever the response that's happening. We're stuck in Iraq, we can't leave. So
yeah.
this trauma is continuing over and over. So the symptoms of that one is difficulty in regulating emotions, leading to intense mood swings. That's when you get, people like
And
soldiers,
probably a large
especially fighting.
portion of veterans do have the complex PTSD because a
Yes.
lot of them were put through many different events.
Well, and yeah, exactly. So we've got the complex PTSD because it started in our childhood, right? But then just being in Iraq, when you're there stuck for 6 months to a year, you
A lot
have multiple
happens.
things. We're getting mortared. We're seeing people kill themselves. Like we had suicides on our deployment where
Yeah.
we're seeing people get bombed. Where, for me, I saw that child that was shot, multiple levels of it, and we're stuck in it and we can't leave, you
Mm,
know? So persistent. This is with the intense mood swings, right? This is when you get soldiers that are fighting each other because they just don't know how to respond. So they're fighting each other, or you've got the higher ups that are yelling at people because that's how they're responding. So that's
right.
some mood swings, or people like me who would just break down crying, you know? Persistent feelings of shame, guilt, or self blame, social isolation, withdrawal from others, difficulties in establishing and maintaining relationships,
Mm,
feelings of detachment and estrangement from oneself or others. I still don't feel connected,
gosh.
even though I'm
Yeah.
married. I still don't feel connected to my husband sometimes. I don't feel
Right.
connected to the world.
I feel
Cognitive
you.
difficulties. Yeah,
Yep. I feel you.
cognitive difficulties. I don't have I have issues with my concentration and my memory. Hypervigilance. That's what my husband experiences. Is like any little sudden movement, he's like, "What's going on? What's going on?"
Right.
He's fighting
Same.
in his sleep. Like you wake him up and he is like fighting. You know, he doesn't know that you're coming and he turns around swinging. That's the hypervigilance, or just any little sound. What's going on? How do I have to protect myself? You know, exaggerated startle response, chronic physical symptoms, headaches, stomach aches, without an identifiable medical cause. You don't know why, but you're just
Mm,
having this headache. My
yep.
husband gets his migraines from his
Physical,
PTSD
yeah,
symptoms.
just physical symptoms that they can't even. That's why some of these people go in, and the doctor's like, "You're healthy." It's because you're experiencing PTSD and you don't even realize it.
Yes, and that's the thing too. I'm going to say this right now, okay? If you're going to the doctor because you're having pains, be honest if you have PTSD.
Right.
Open up from the
Yes.
very beginning to every single doctor because then they can find out, like, hey, we need to get you some more help because sometimes the symptoms are from the PTSD. Yes.
Right. We do got to
Yep.
remove the stigma of PTSD. Right. I think
Yes.
that label um, instills fear in some people
Hmm.
when they hear that, oh, that person's got PTSD. Oh, shoot, what are they going to do?
Yep.
Like,
Oh yeah.
and then you become that monster in the room,
Yep.
and
And
everything becomes about your PTSD.
S- speaking of that, the distorted self perception, including negative self image, you start feeling like the monster. It's not just that other people
Yes.
are looking at you like it. You start feeling like the
Right.
monster and you
Yep.
feel shame and blame and guilt
Yep.
and start portraying stuff like that. Then you have your flashbacks and the intrusive memories, night terrors, and that becomes the physical representation of it as well. And
Mhm.
engaging in self destructive behavior, substance abuse, or self harm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Too many of us. Too
Yep.
many of us suffer with that complex PTSD. It's really nice to break this down because I have just recently learned of the different types of PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it would be interesting to kind of bring this up since we were talking about it. You can go ahead and talk to the last one. You read way better than me, anyways.
Well, I was just gonna say I totally have the comorbid PTSD too. Like God's like, hey, here, have everything.
A
So it looks
little
like,
sprinkle of this, a little bit of that. I know.
yeah.
I think I relate to a couple of these.
Yeah. So it looks like comorbid PTSD, and I've actually never heard of this, but that's exactly the truth. Comorbid PTSD is when you have those disorders that you are using in response to your PTSD, is what it looks like. The presence of
Mm.
PTSD alongside one or more mental health conditions. Common for individuals with PTSD to also experience other disorders, and this can further complicate their symptoms and treatment. And so this is me. I've got the substance use disorder, I've got the depression, the anxiety disorders, and the dissociative disorders,
Mm.
right there. Many individuals with PTSD struggle with addiction. I have so many addictions. I had the drugs, the alcohol, the promiscuity, the food, just more of anything. It's whatever I can do because they turn to drugs or alcohol as a way to cope with their symptoms, leading to the development of substance abuse disorders, create a vicious cycle where the substance use worsens the PTSD symptoms and vice versa. Like I said, there was multiple times that I would go talk to the therapist and I'd be like, here is what I'm experiencing. And they would address the PTSD, but not really because there was certain aspects of it that I wasn't talking about. And then I never told them that I was drinking or drugging. And so I
Mm.
was going in this vicious cycle and getting worse, and they couldn't see why because I wasn't being honest. Now, I'm sure some of the doctors knew, I'm sure, but they did not force me to talk about it. But then you've got the depression, strong association between PTSD and depression. Individuals with comorbid PTSD and depression often experience persistent feelings of sadness, hopelessness, loss of interest in activities they once enjoyed. So there are some people with PTSD that don't have depression. They just get triggered and then they move on. And it's the same thing with anxiety. They get triggered and then they move on. But some of us, we have the generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and phobias commonly occurring with the PTSD. Individuals may develop social anxiety. I don't know if that sounds familiar, but that is so true. Intensify feelings of worry, fear, anxiety, more challenging to manage daily life. And then again, we go into the dissociative identity disorder, which is what they thought that I had for a little while. Well, it's a certain form of it because I'm remembering what's happening sometimes. And so they're like, okay, do you have this? Do you not? Because I'm
Mm.
having the memory lapses sometimes, but then other times I'm remembering. So they're like, yeah, you don't have that. So that's where they came up with the borderline, you know, dissociative amnesia, same type of thing. These disorders involve disruptions in memory, identity, perception, and consciousness. So, yeah. So some of
Wow,
this is like actual, like, here is the PTSD, and some of this is here is how we're responding to our PTSD.
that's crazy. Because I think there's originally 5, but I think the 6th one is kind of the reaction from it,
Hmm.
right? And how you're responding to your PTSD. So there is treatment out there for trauma and PTSD. You could go do therapy for PTSD, getting help recovering from trauma from a licensed therapist, or you can do online PTSD treatment. Talk to Tree offers personalized care for psychiatrists who listen and take insurance. So, there's help. Also, the VA has programs out there as well. If you don't want to have to go pay out of your pocket or anything like that. I mean, definitely try to go get yourself some kind of diagnosis on where your PTSD is. Then once you kind of can identify where you fall in, you can kind of start getting the proper treatment to help yourself. Um,
But try to be honest at where you're at in your responses to the PTSD because that changes the treatment. How are you responding to your PTSD? Do you have the depression, the anxiety, the dissociation, the alcoholism, or addiction? Be honest and open. This is how I am responding.
so there's different types of therapies out there, trauma focused, CBT. There's
Cognitive behavioral therapy is what
yeah.
that is.
Okay, and then
Yep.
there's exposure therapy, and then there's cognitive processing therapy. There's
I've
eye
done that one
movement.
which
eye
is
movement
amazing.
desensitization and reprocessing. There's
That's
hypnosis,
EMDR. Yep.
and then there is mindfulness based therapies.
There's
So
also dialectic behavioral therapy, which is amazing. Dialectic behavioral therapy is the type of therapy that helps you to accept two things being true at once. You
oh,
know, I
okay,
had a shitty life and I can still feel peace.
right.
You know, I am pissed off at this person and I can still love them. I am sad and I am still joyful. So being able to do all of those is super fantastic.
Yeah, and so I made sure that there's the websites below us right there. So if you guys would like to go look at this information on your own, and maybe you want to pass it on, share it to someone, you're like, wow, I didn't realize this, and let's get this information out there. Let's share it with others. Um, I know for myself, I just recently have discovered that there's all these different types of PTSD. I wasn't aware of that. So now I am starting to look into it a little bit more. And like I said, it's going to help you maybe move forward, and maybe you'll start feeling a little, maybe that will give you a little bit of some relief too, right? Like, no shit. Okay. That's why. Or, and sometimes just that little diagnosis can have a lot of explanations for you, and it might make you feel a little better because you're not as crazy as you think you are, um, but there's also different medications out there, and be careful when you use medication. Make sure a doctor is prescribing it to you, and that you don't have any kind of adverse reactions, because some of these medications out there, although they're supposed to help you not do something, sometimes they make you do it. So you got to be careful with what you're taking, and be responsible with it. But there's Zoloft, Paxil, Prozac, Amitic, I don't know. That's,
Amitriptyline.
yeah, FXR, Remeron, Cerazone, Tafranil, and Nardil. I hate saying medical terms.
So I'll tell you, in the next episode, I'm going to go into more details. But for my experience, when I went to the psych unit the first time, right, they actually gave me a misdiagnosis, right? They gave me a diagnosis of bipolar, and so they put me on medications.
Shit.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's okay. So what had happened is, in my alcoholism, I kept myself very depressed for a long time. All right, I got sober. I was on antidepressants. Once I got to this place where I was more balanced, I started having manic episodes. So they called it bipolar, and they put me on all these meds. And so I'm sharing this to let you guys know that it's okay to be treated wrong for a while. Because what ended up happening was I was taking these different meds for 5 years, which they helped me balance out. Once they helped me balance out, in that time frame, I was able to do my trauma therapy. Now, finally doing my trauma therapy, I started processing through things and the meds stopped working. So that was when they finally diagnosed me. They said, "You're not bipolar. This is not a chemical imbalance. This is an emotional imbalance." And so I needed the chemicals to balance while I processed through the emotions. Then I was able to get off all of the medications. They detoxed me off of all 5 medications while I was in the psych unit the second time, you know.
Mm.
And so it's okay to be put on meds temporarily,
Yeah.
even if you're not bipolar, even if it's just trauma responses. It's okay to be put on meds for a little while, because I needed that so that I could find the balance to process through the emotions, and then I didn't need it. But then there's also people who, along with their PTSD, right, they have things like bipolar, which bipolar is a chemical imbalance, and you may be on meds for the rest of your life. So it
Mm.
is not a trauma response. PTSD is a trauma response. Borderline personality is a trauma response. Dissociation is a trauma response. But bipolar is not.
Mm.
That is a chemical imbalance. So if you get diagnosed with bipolar, do not feel bad about being on meds. Don't be scared, because it's something that your body literally needs. So it doesn't mean that you're less than. It doesn't mean that you're worthless. It doesn't mean that you're giving up by being on meds. Sometimes we need the meds temporarily to balance, and then other times we have an actual an actual chemical imbalance. So listen to your doctors and be honest and open with your doctors about things, and be willing to try different things, because we went through a bunch of different meds to try out at first, and then it's like, I don't need them. But then like other people have the chemical imbalance and they'll be on meds for the rest of their life, and that's okay. So just remember that there is a difference between a trauma response and a chemical imbalance.
Yeah, thank you. And I love how you always clarify for us, because you're good at doing that.
Well, it's only because I've had all of these experiences, right?
No,
This is something that I've been processing through for years, trying to
nope.
figure out what's going to work for me. And I've been such a huge self advocate, and I've seen other people who struggle with they aren't ready to be their own self advocates, and they feel like there's this victim mentality, like all of this stuff is happening to them and they feel powerless. And so with my experience, I'm able to be like, hey, you're not alone in this. And I'm able to help people to see that they do have options, that they do have power, that there is stuff that can help. And so like I've seen so many people, like I've just kind of going back into it, right? I have so many battle buddies that got out of the military and they were lost with that victim mentality or their PTSD symptoms, or some of them having the chemical imbalances, and they didn't know how to get help. And so their responses, like mine was my addictions and stuff like that, but a lot of their responses were their drugs and alcohol or anger or in and out of relationships, or killing themselves. And so I try to be a huge advocate for this mental health process, because it is what saved my life.
No, and we need it. We need voices out there to be loud and be transparent. And that's what I appreciate you when you provide us your perspective and your experiences, because shit, that needs to be said out loud. These are things that someone out there can just associate that word with what they're going through, and it changed the outcome for themselves.
Well,
So
and then
I'm glad you do it.
Well, and then there's that aspect that, I try to be an advocate for the medical community too, because there is some bullshit going on up top. There is some
Sure.
political bullshit going on. But for the most part, the people that see us, especially the mental health people, they want to help us, but they
Right.
are human. They are human, and they are dealing with shit coming from up top, and they're dealing with some uneducation sometimes, and they're dealing with everybody's chemicals are different, everybody's situations are different, and they're just trying to do the best that they can. So if they make mistakes and give you the wrong diagnosis, it's okay. Like, don't be angry, don't be frustrated. What can you learn from it? How can you move forward? And so that's the thing, is like, even though there is shitty stuff going on, and there are some people in the medical community that are nefarious, that are purposely trying to hurt us. Yes, there are. Those people suck. But for the most part, everyone's just trying to do the best that they can, and with the limitations that they have. So even if you're not getting the help that you need, it's okay. Be an advocate. Go somewhere different. Try something different. If the VA you are in a state that you are living in, if that VA is not helping you, move to a different state. Don't live in that victim mentality. Either request policy changes and get involved with the government, or move to a different state. The Utah VA is the best VA I've ever had in my entire life. Okay. And I've been to multiple VAs. Okay. So if you are struggling with the VA you're at, either get involved with the government to try and make changes, or move here to Utah, or move to North Carolina, because that was an amazing VA too. There are places with different VAs. Don't get stuck in the victim mentality that you can't get help. Change your circumstance, and be patient and loving and kind to the people who are trying to help you, because they may be struggling with their own situations that you have nothing to do about. And so when we talked before about how are we reacting to the way people are treating us, right? Maybe this person just needs patience today. Maybe this person needs a kind conversation, because every other patient has been a dick. You can be nice to that person.
And I think that people also need to be cognizant of the fact that PTSD is still relatively new in the manner of them acknowledging it.
Yes.
To the point that they're now breaking it down to more than different types of PTSD and everything else. PTSD, mental health has always kind of been one of those things that I think no one really wanted to deal with until it became so much that they had to. And I feel like 2020 really kind of pushed it over the edge. And that's because they, everybody got locked up there. I think they had to live a different way. It really messed with a lot of people's mental health. And at that point in time, it became a big problem because now you got all these school kids that they have a whole bunch of mental health problems because some of them, that was their safe place. That was their safe place to go to school. And then we took that away from them. Now they're at home with maybe abusive parents, someone who was putting them through shit and hell. And now they were exposed to something longer than they would have if we didn't shut things down. So, I mean, mental health was already a problem. We pushed it into a level of, holy shit, now everybody around is almost a mental health case. And we're taking and even the smallest minute things and we're hyper vigilating it now, and it's being hypo looked at, right? And that takes away from some of the folks that are starting to suffer and things like that. Now you try to go get some mental health, they're like, oh, we can see you in months, motherfucking months, because there's so many people who need mental health right now, some legit, some not, that they've even had to like at Kaiser, the mental health department had to hire other sources to help them with mental health because it couldn't even cover enough of their patients. So we definitely are in a world of they're still trying to figure it out. So when you get misdiagnosed and it might be a mental cognizant thing that you're getting, it's because they're still really trying to figure this shit out and it's still new.
Yep.
And some of it's starting to find its way and get defined, but some of it's very gray and they're still not understanding it. When it comes to the brain, it is hard to understand the brain because everybody's brain is so complex and so different. Not one brain is built the same. So you're not going to have the same result from one person to the next, even if they have the exact same PTSD.
Yep. Well, because you've got the way that people are reacting, and then you also have the chemicals that are changing, and then you've got other people's if they're fighting against it or they're going with it, and are they being 100% honest about what's going on? Are they not? Yeah, there's so many different layers involved with that.
So let's go ahead and share something real quick, and this will be the last thing, and then we're going to get out of here. I want you guys to understand that this is available for everybody to go out and check. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in, and I'll also try to, share it at the end of the show as well. Make sure I have it in the description. But
before you read this, can I just say one thing?
Yep.
So just leading into this, okay, so with a lot of veterans PTSD responses, right? It's that, okay, well, I can't see a way out. We're going into talking about suicide prevention. And I just wanted to share, like since I got back from my deployment, okay, I have lost more people to suicide since I got back. More people than the entire deployment combined. Okay. And there's people that I deployed with. There's people that I was stationed in Germany with. There's a friend of mine who was 63 years old that ended up taking his life, and there's so many that has touched my life individually. And so many people that I've stayed in contact with, who've told me like, hey, like you've helped me to keep me from doing this. Right. You've helped me to keep me from doing this. And it's helped me to have people reaching out to me. And so we talk about, we don't necessarily know a full solution to it, but PTSD is a disease of disconnection, right? We are feeling disconnected from the world, from people, and this, that, and the other. So I just want to say, like, one of the solutions that we have is to find connection. And so then we lead into talking about the annual report and the suicide prevention, but I just want you guys to know that we're not saying this stuff to you just because it's like, oh, willy-nilly. It's like we have been touched personally by our own feelings of wanting to commit suicide, by our own feelings of struggle, and then from losing people that we knew, losing people that we loved, losing people that we didn't love, losing people that we hurt, but or just people that we are connected to, but we are connected to this so intimately. So if you are feeling like you are struggling, know that you are not alone. If you are struggling with the idea that your battle buddies have killed themselves, or if you're struggling with the idea of you wanting to, just know that you're not alone, that we are here, and you can reach out to us. You are not alone in this. We understand the struggle intimately. This is such a shitty statistics we're going to go into right now. It is shitty statistics, and it is so real, and it is prevalent, and it touches so many people's lives. You are not alone. Please don't give up, and please don't think that you're alone. We are here for you.
I don't even have to know you. It's the number alone that gets to me every time, because I know there's a face, there's a man, there's a woman, there's a brother, there's a sister, there's a son, there's a daughter, there's an uncle, there's an aunt behind those numbers. Those aren't just numbers to me. They're fucking humans. They're people.
I can name a couple. You've got Chong, you've got Rico, you've got Jeff, you've got Dustin, you've got Kai, you've got Tina. Those are just 6 on my mindset. Steven, there that's 7 right there, that I know personally.
And when we do this, folks, the hard part for me to swallow is that we're giving numbers back to the enemy as well, because they're still taking our life. They may not be physically sitting there taking your life, but you're taking it for them. You're working as their hand. And that's really rough to hear. And some of it is related to all these PTSD that we're hearing. We went through the symptoms. And when it comes to the complex one, there's a large list of them, and some veterans probably have more than one of these types of PTSD. And the longer that we're just we don't want to talk about it, we don't want to educate ourselves about it, we're really not doing a disservice to anybody. That's why it's important to start to learn about this, educate ourselves, because the only way we're going to fix it is to learn about it. Learn about the enemy. The enemy right now is PTSD. And we need to learn about that. And how the fuck do we fix it in a way that we're not losing our men and women later on down the road when they made it home? Some of you made it fucking home, man. You went through shit. You watched people die. You made it home. And then something in your heart or in your mind makes you say, enough's enough and I'm done. We got to stop, guys. We have to stop. This is really getting hard for us to continuously hear this. I get it, man. Life is rough. It is a rough life. But sometimes the day you feel like there's no, it can't get any better or it can't get any worse than this, I assure you that's just a mindset. If you want to continuously go down that path and you think negatively, the chances are the more you think about something negatively, it's going to end up being what is your reality. So trying to have that positive thoughts and things like that is another thing to try to help you speak positively instead of negatively. I can't do this. Yes, you can. Stop using those words. I can't. At least say I'll try.
There's something that I heard in my recovery which really changed my perspective from everything. I have made it through 100% of my hardest days. 100% of my hardest days, I have made it through the other side because I have depended on connection with others, with my higher power, with my therapist, with all of these people, because I utilize the tools of connection I have made it through 100% of my hardest days, and so can you.
So as hard as this report is, it's something that needs to be shared and talked about. It's not just a document that just needs to be put to the wayside and stuff. This is something that we need to start putting out there. So if you want, you can go out there. You can go to www.mentalhealth.va.gov, and you'll be able to find this information out there. You have the table of contents, which will talk about the veteran suicides from 2001 to 2022. All different things. We're going to go through some of this, not all of it, because I know I don't want to, some of you can go through this yourself. Talks about veterans with VHA or VBA contact, suicide as a leading cause of veteran mortality. And then we'll kind of go through the summary of key findings, just to kind of, gloss over this. But suicide was the 12th leading cause of death for veterans in 2022. Suicide was the second leading cause of death for veterans under the age of 45 years old. Under the age of 45 years old, folks. People that have a long life left. There were 6,407 veteran suicide deaths in 2022, three more than in 2021. In 2022, there were 271 suicides among female veterans, 80 fewer than in 2021, and 6,136 among male veterans, 83 more than in 2021. There was 47,891 suicides in 2022 among all U.S. adults in 2022, on average 131.2 per day. These included, on average, 17.6 veteran suicides per day, of which 7.0 per day were among veterans who received VHA care in 2021 or 2022, and 10.5 were among other veterans.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah, and
Okay,
just mind you guys real quick before, just be very mindful that these are reported numbers. There's a lot of numbers not reported here. So just take these numbers with a little bit of a grain of salt. There's probably there's probably a lot more.
That's what I wanted to bring up, right? It says an average of 17 veteran suicides per day, with 7 among veterans who are receiving VHA care. So there are so many veterans that are not getting the care through the VA, because if you don't have a disability and if you don't qualify for financial, or there's a couple other things, right? You don't get the health care. And so there's a lot of these veterans that are not getting the help. Okay. And so a lot of them are not being reported, right? And then you go into the homeless veteran pandemic, right? We haven't even touched base on that, but we go into the veteran homeless pandemic, and there are some veterans that literally can't afford to live where they're at, right? Or whatnot, but and they're not getting the health care. They can't get the help because they can't afford it, or they get the help, they can't afford it, they lose all their money, and so then they become homeless. But then you also have the veterans who, because of their PTSD and their isolation, they are choosing homelessness. That is what's happening as well. There is a lot of veterans, like a lot of people say, look at all the programs for homeless veterans. Why aren't these guys getting help? Because they don't feel like they deserve it, or they don't feel like they can. And so there are so many suicides among homeless veterans that is not getting reported either, because they are not in the system. So that's the thing. Like he said, these numbers are just an average, but there are so many of these other people who are not being reported. So this is such a high concentrate.
Yep. And in 2022, the suicide rate among homeless recent veteran VHA users was 110.2% higher than for those without diagnosis of homelessness.
Those are the only one. Those are only the ones that are in the healthcare system.
That are in the system, right?
Yes.
That are actually reporting themselves. In 2022, the unadjusted suicide rate among recent veteran VHA users with diagnosis of homelessness was 21.4% higher than in 2001, 5.9% higher than in 2020, and 19.1% lower than in 2021. So, the thing about this is, and I promise you this, a lot of Vietnam veterans are not recorded, and that is due to the fact that they have lost all hope in the system. They were mistreated when they came home, and a lot of them just don't have any faith in the system themselves. And I do know that there are a lot out there that don't want to go use the VA or are turned off to the VA due to the fact of all the horror stories that they've heard. Now, I will say this, not all VAs are equal. Some are better, some are worse, some are good, some are bad. Don't treat everything as though it's the same, guys, and give your local VA a chance to mess up. But realize that the people that typically are there trying to do the job are there trying to get you the help you need. So make sure you're out there and getting the help you need, and don't feel like you're out there trying to, get a handout or you're taking away from another veteran. That's one of the biggest things I think a lot of veterans say is, oh, I don't want to take the VA care because I might be taken away from someone else who needs it. And if you went and you signed up, they account for every one of us as though you get out. So every one that you gave you swore in, you are eligible. So don't feel that you're going to take away from someone else. Okay.
Well, and I'll say this as well. Okay. So for people who did not deploy and did reserve time, right? It is a lot harder for you to get the health care. Okay. My husband just went through this. Okay.
Yep. And it's getting harder now.
It was, yes, it was super hard. And there are naive people in the VA system. Like I had somebody specifically tell my husband, "You're not a veteran." Like it was so disrespectful. So you've got some people who are very inept, right? Who don't understand the concept. And so we went through this situation where, there's people who don't know what they're doing. There's people who are uneducated. There's a system that's still not quite connecting. But the thing is like my husband, he dealt with suicide. He dealt with death. He dealt with almost being killed by a tank. He dealt with a lot of the same stuff that we struggle with in active duty, right? And so we were able to, it took us a little bit longer, but we were able to get his disability. Okay. And getting his disability, now he's being able to be seen at the VA. But just know that just because you may be told at the healthcare system, you can still qualify for your disability and still get the help. So don't be scared to keep pushing. And when they say no, be like, hey, I'm going to keep fighting anyway, because you do deserve it. It just might take a little while. They are not equipped to just take everybody right away, right? And I wish that they were. I wish that the system was a little bit different, but it's not. So fight for your disability so that you can get the benefits you deserve, even if the healthcare is saying no.
And also,
and if some people are going to be assholes, let them be assholes. But you know that your worth matters, that what you did matters, and there are benefits available to you. You just might have to fight for them. And it would be nice if we were in a perfect world and you didn't have to fight and they just gave it to you, but we're not in that perfect world. So fight for it. Don't get lost in the victim mentality. Don't get lost in the blame and shame. Don't get lost in the I'm not good enough, because you are. Fight for your benefits.
Absolutely. And, if you don't fight for it, you're losing out. And that's, part of it is
you to give up. They want you to give up.
They really do. And I promise you're likely to get denied the first time.
Yes.
But don't let that discourage you. There's also VSOs out there, right? They don't charge you a dime.
Veteran service officer.
They're there to help you get what is yours without taking a dime from you. And they typically know the ins and outs of it, how to word things better than others. So go find a local VSO to you. Ask what a VSO is. Ask who your VSO is. All these, ask questions about it, and go get yourself a VSO and talk to a VSO. Let them know all the things, and they can set you up and tell you how to, what angles to take, what paperwork, and how you got to go about doing this. Because sometimes that's where you're like, well, I don't even know what the hell to do. I tell you what, go find a VSO, and they should be able to assist you through the whole process.
And you shouldn't have to pay a dime for it. You should not have to pay a dime for it. That's another thing.
be careful. There are, groups out there that say, oh, we could go get you your back pay, but, upon you getting it, we get 10%, or something like that. Don't give up your back pay. Don't give up any of that. Okay, go find a VSO who's going to help you, and it's not going to cost you a thing. Because if someone's out there looking for money, yeah, they might get you, your rating and stuff, but you're giving them all your money that you fought so hard for, all that back pay. But we're not going to go through this whole entire document. There's a lot of information on here. There's 54 pages to go through. I just wanted to show this that this information is out there. How accurate it is, now that's an argument for a different day. But for nevertheless, it kind of puts a number on the map. And I think that, we live in a world of, we like to slap labels on top of things, right? So we can market it. We can, say we won or whatever. Like, I feel like the 22 a day was a number that the VA now they can say, well, it was 22 a day. Now we're down to 17 a day. So we're doing better, and then they want to go like pat themselves on the back type of
but
thing.
They're not thinking about everything that's not reported. Yeah.
Correct. And not only that, it's like the numbers are skewed. Some days the numbers probably past 22 days. Some days it's probably lower, but
well, and they also might be reporting that like alcohol or addiction is not considered suicide. And
sure,
so that's the thing too, because there are so many. This is a complete
like someone who
separate issue,
who was so pissed off, they were drunk, they wanted to go slam their car into a tree. They just rated as a car accident.
Or people who are drinking themselves to death, or they overdose. Like those are considered suicides as well, but not according to the numbers. But those are suicides as well. When you you're drinking yourself to death, your body's dying, and you're still drinking. That is part of the suicide sometimes. And then the people who are overdosing and stuff like that. Yeah. So
absolutely.
That's, again, these numbers are so objective that they are not taking the full brunt of what's actually going on.
Yep. And that's why I say you just take these numbers with a grain of salt. It just kind of puts a little bit more of it in perspective for you. That there is a bigger problem out there than anybody ever wants us to know. And believe you me, the reason why we don't hear this a lot is because they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to act like we have a problem. Our war fighters are badass mofos that come back and they have some problems. It doesn't remove that they're badass mofos. They got a whole bunch of problems on their brain, on their mind, on their conscious, whatever it may be. But we as in a society got to do better. We got to do better for the men and women who have decided to go put the uniform on and make a commitment to their country and to their countrymen and women. We got to do a little better for them. I feel like we do a lot of reforming for people that go through jail. It's another institution, and the military is an institution as well. We get institutionalized while we're in there, just like a person who is in jail. They get stuck. When you go to jail, you become part of that environment because you're there for a long freaking time. And when you wake up and go to sleep in that environment, you somewhat become part of the environment. Think about that. When you get in the military, you're sleeping every day in this environment. Boom, one day you're fucking out, and now you got to go out and you're going into this other environment you're not used to anymore.
It would be wonderful if there was a rehabilitation for people like coming out of the military like they do in jail. It would be so wonderful if it was so. Like before we get out of the military,
house, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like before we get out of the military, we've got a couple weeks of integration into civilian life, and it's really nothing. But when you get out, it would be so nice to have somebody walking you through things. And like I think it's awesome that there is. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. There's something called Veterans Court, right? when a veteran gets in legal trouble, if it's not too intense, they get what's called a veterans court. And so that's something where there's a little bit more leeway because of us getting out. We didn't have that proper getting out and didn't know how to process things. So they get a little bit more leeway, like, hey, are you getting the mental health help? If we can get you the mental health help, can you rehab? I think that they should do that as soon as we get out. Have that same type of thing, like, hey, let's make sure that you're getting this mental health help, even if you feel like you don't need it. Let's get you involved. Let's start reintegrating you in a healthy way, so that it doesn't become getting to a point where we need veteran help, or that
Yep.
where we need the veteran court.
Let's
And so I
help
wish
you.
that they,
Let's help
yes,
you fill out your resume. Let's
well,
help you
yes,
go through let's do some little informal interviews so you know how to interview with folks,
yes.
because
Well, and
we are veterans can be a very big key contributor to wherever they work. But military's like, well, fucking, if you ain't good for me, you ain't gonna be good for no one else. And that, I hate that mentality.
yes, but
Because
like
they trained us to be the baddest ass fools while we were in.
let's put us on some form of probation when we get out. We're not going to let you out 100% until we know that you're ready to reintegrate. And if you're not ready to reintegrate, we'll take you back in for a little while and continue training you to reintegrate, just like in jail, right? We're going to put you on probation. We're going to monitor you, check on you. If you're not ready to be out, we'll put you back in for a little bit. I think it would be so awesome to do something like that in the military too. Like, hey, let's give you the resources you need. Let's monitor you, make sure that you're okay, so that we don't have so many people falling under the cracks.
I know.
So many people falling under the cracks because there is no monitoring that happens. Sorry. Who, I just wish that there was a better monitoring system so that our battle buddies don't fall in the cracks. I wish that they knew what was there for them. I wish that they knew what kind of help was there. I wish that they had the support that I had. I already had the support because I had I didn't have complete support, but I had some support because I had the medical discharge and I already had the VA monitoring me. But people that are getting out without that monitoring, I just wish that there was a different way that we could do this so that they could be monitored too.
Yeah, it's a sad situation. My daughter goes to UC San Diego, and the amount of homelessness that's down there, and they're all guys. It's like they got out with their sea bags and they just walked out of the gate and they freaking went out to the streets because they didn't have nowhere else to go, and they're freaking still staying close to the base. What the fuck? We shouldn't have homelessness right outside Camp Pendleton. But there is. Go to Oceanside, California. I took my kids there, and there's a freaking bum fights. They're veteran dudes fighting. I knew they were veterans. I could see them with the fucking packs. I mean, you know them. I went down to San Diego. We're walking down Coronado. I run into an old gunnery sergeant, drunk and homeless, with his little parrot, and I'm like, "What the fuck happened to you, dude?" It was a sad thing to watch, and he was just so almost incognizant of like what is going on. He's so out of touch with reality. And there's a part of him that never let go, but they let him go.
Yeah.
And he was a lifer, right? So like he didn't know what the frick to do with himself after he got out. So that it was hard to see that. Hard to see a dude that was a gunnery sergeant, a good leader, years later, homeless on the same streets that we got on the ship and shit and did exercises right in that same area. And I'm walking and I'm like, no way, is that? And I'm looking at him, I'm like, that can't be. And it is. It was sad. It was sad to see that we have great leaders and guys that gave it all to their country just to fall flat on their face and have nothing to go to and have nothing but a sea bag, but I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. it's been a very somber one for us. One of the biggest reasons why we wanted to talk about this, guys, is it is near and dear to our heart. I didn't just want to smooth over the fact of like when we got out and transition. I wanted to kind of go a little bit more in depth with it, because that's right when the fucking problem starts. It's getting out. That's what needs to be fixed. That moment in time of when people get their DD-214 and they get out, because that's right when that clock starts for them, and it could either be turmoil or success. And sometimes it's turmoil before success. It shouldn't be like that. Some guys and girls, they worked really hard to go from a fucking E1, get out as an E4, E5, have become like a supervisor, leader. You're now in charge of people, and then you get out and boom, you're cut at the knees, and now you got to go start off. You have no experience. You're just another average Joe Blow. Some people can't deal with that part. It's hard. It's hard on our pride. It's hard on the way we are trained. You know, so I hope that the world can kind of start to stop focusing so much on the mission all the time and start focusing on the people that get the mission done. Let's not let these people get out and just, well, I'll wash my hands of them. They are a representation of your fucking department, whatever it is. If they were a Marine, they are now going to carry that on forever. They are a Marine veteran. They are a Marine. They go into somewhere, they call themselves a Marine. They carry themselves and they wear their shit as a Marine. Same with Army, Air Force, everybody. Don't make the world think of us as like, oh, the fucking, we're starting to get that name tag on us. Broken veterans. So they're mental cases. They just got problems. Hey, you know what? Damn it, man. Don't smear the hero part and fucking make everybody think that these guys are just no good. They're broken, and throw them to the wayside. We got to do better. So hey, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you touched base on how we need to, how others need to treat veterans, right? And I just wanted to share before you go, I'm going to share a poem, so yes, we want to have the world to have a better acceptance of us when we come back, right? But the solution that I talked about before, right? One of the solutions to help us to be able to find that hope and find that way to keep moving forward, right? To not become a statistic is that finding connection, right? And so I wanted to share this poem, and I don't think that I've read it on this one yet, but it's called Connections, right? And it's kind of perfect because it's that idea that, okay, what can we do to help us to find a better mentality to help us? How can we keep moving forward? And it's connecting with other people, connecting with God, connecting with strangers. Like you said at the very beginning, you get that thought to say something to somebody. How can we connect to other people? Because PTSD is a disconnect response. And so how can we find the healing? And that's going to be through connections. So I'm going to share that poem, and I'll do my little shameless plug. Here is my book again, More Me Than I Used to Be. And if you're interested, send us an email, and I'll send you the link for the book launch when it comes out. But I'm going to read this one. It's called Connections, and I'll end it with this. And thank you guys for letting me, be here and be raw and vulnerable. But this is what I have found. And this I wrote at 2 months sober. It was March of 2017. And this is what I found that kept me going, that gave me hope throughout when I first got back, throughout all of my childhood, everything that I went through. The way that I found to keep going is by finding connections somewhere, even if I didn't understand what that connection was. And in sobriety, the thing that got me sober was connection. So I hope that this poem can help you guys. Sometimes I get this feeling, though sometimes it goes away. I know that there are others it shows in what they say. I've been searching far and wide a home to build so strong, where I can find comfort from this world that feels so wrong. I'm learning I won't find it if I hide my love and talents, playing the disconnect game, refusing to find balance. When I focus on my past or future, forgetting the here and now, then I become a victim. Worldly things may make me bow. I start to judge another, they are wrong or I am right. Or even worse, the feeling of giving up the fight. In past, I judged my worth on some opinions or advice, playing follow the leader in a swarming group of mice. I pushed out the weaker being and stepped on their head. Question is, what will I carry into my own deathbed? I'll bring wisdom and emotions with connections of the heart, not my worldly ambitions or even a piece of art. There's so much to experience above my head and below my feet, many worlds to be discovered, many siblings yet to meet. I sometimes get lost in arguing in my head or with another, forgetting that our perceptions are different from each other. Even the yesterday me I thought I knew so well has changed so much today, yet continues to still yell. Sometimes I get distracted about what to say or say. Then I forget to focus on simple things that day. There is a lot of healing and amends that must be made. I cannot stop experiencing the world as it's been laid. That family of squirrels or bird's nest I saw today around noon did not come out of nowhere. It's been there many a moon. A beautiful flower by the street could have been easily passed. He might have a brother where another shadow is cast. The smile I saw in a stranger, I swear I've never seen before. It might have graced my presence yesterday at the store. I was just too focused on the things I had to buy. Was he behind me with his kid, a teardrop in his eye? The things that I've been blind to may not be just by chance. I may be missing some connections, a whole number left to dance. A thin thread like a spider's is being shown each day. I'm learning how to follow it in the vibe to do and say. Not things that I have planned, ignoring how others feel, but focusing on us both, watching layers start to peel. I've experienced many things, some I cannot show or tell. I have to give God credit for helping me see so well that this invisible, mighty strand is intertwining in my life, and my energy or karma impacts others' joy and strife. I'm learning that my actions can certainly affect many. If I serve another person, I'll be rewarded plenty. It's not about the money, I don't need much of that. It's not about the glory or even the blessings I get back. It's knowing that my words or even a helping hand may change split decisions, helping pearls transform from sand. As I'm going through this constant changing healing, I'm trying not to judge myself or focus on the feeling that I didn't accomplish everything I wanted to do today because I know I did my best if my motives didn't stray. If by chance I realize I did some wrong somewhere, I do my best to right it or genuinely show I care. I know if I stay positive, honoring connection to all, the chains of negativity and pain will slowly start to fall.
Another outstanding poem that totally represents kind of what we talk about. It's just crazy how aligned they are. It's almost like we cued this, right? Like she wrote it. It's like, oh, we're going to be talking about this. Let me go write this poem real quick. But no, they're already in the book, guys. So you can say that's it. You can see.
Already in the book.
Go get that book. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. And once we get the link, we'll make sure we put it inside the description of the show as well, so you guys can click on it and show your support and love. We just thank you guys so much for allowing us to tell our stories, tell our experiences, just talk about these things. And like I said, these are we're real people, and we have real feelings, and we have real emotions, and these topics aren't exactly easy to talk about, but someone got to talk about it, and we got to put some help on it. We got to stop this. We don't want to see our brothers and sisters keep taking their lives at their own hands. Okay. It's really a big blow to the community when we hear a number, because believe you or not, whether we know you or not, the numbers come through, and then you'll see it. We lost another one to this, and I, oh my gosh! And since I become friends with so many veterans, I keep seeing these messages time and time again. We lost another one to the demons. It's just like, come on, we got to do better. We got to do better as individuals. We got to do better as a community. We got to do better. But we hope you guys continue to like the show. Please share it, like it. It doesn't cost a thing. If you're on YouTube, you go at EDAS-USMC Veteran. Go subscribe, like the show. We're also on all the different platforms: Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Overcast, TuneIn, all the things. Okay, we're on every platform. And if we're not on a platform and you like to listen to, let me know. Shoot me an email. Every day is a Saturday, 365@yahoo.com, and we'll be sure to add you so that way you guys can listen to us on your favorite platforms at all times. Because I know how it is. Some of you guys have your specific platform you want to listen to everything through, and I get it, and that's not a problem. We just want to make sure we add everybody so everybody gets an opportunity to hear some of these great, amazing stories. Also, if you would like to come on with Marie and I and talk about your experiences, how things were for you, maybe the stories that we're talking about really resonate with you and you feel you so desire, act upon it, right? Like we just talked about. Act upon those thoughts. Shoot us an email and say, hey, I want to come on too and talk about something too. Hey, that's what this is for. We want everybody to feel comfortable to talk about it. So we're opening it up to others as well. This next episode, we will get to our rise, to how the rise started, and we may break it up again depending on how it goes. Marie will tell her side, and then I'll tell mine. That way, we don't have another 2-hour show like we just did right now. So, but anyways, once again, we'll get on out of here. Thank you guys so much. You know how we say, don't let the day kick your ass. Make sure you're out there kicking it. Until next time, we'll see you guys.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.